All right, so this is the dream house follow along that we do in class. If you want to get ahead and the class is taking too long to kind of keep up with you, your pace, you can just go on to the video and hopefully that's what you're doing right now. Or if you missed that day, you can go back and take a look. So first thing I want you to do is go File, New, and we're gonna go to Letter. So as soon as this opens, so I'm gonna go to Print. At the top of my dialog, my new document dialog box, click on Letter, and I'm going to change my orientation to Landscape. So it was on this and now it's on this. I'm going to title it Dream, or I'm going to title it House. Right? Keep it at 300 DPI, that's fine. And we're going to click Create. All right, so we have our landscape letter. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to File and go down to Place Linked. Right, so finding my desktop folder again. So the file that I'm looking for is called Mountain Sky. So we're going to click Mountain Sky and click Place. It should automatically come in at the size of the page. The reason why I do Place Linked and Embedded, if you use the Place command, it usually comes in at a good size within your page. Usually comes in at a good size within your canvas. So I'm going to click check mark. All right, next I'm going to go up to my file again, and I'm click File, Open, and this time I'm going to go to House. So I'm going to find my house landscape. Right, and I click Open. So notice I clicked Open this time versus Link this time. The house, when I open it on it, it comes in its own tab at the top here. It's a different tab than the other one. And it has my layer. It has just a regular layer. It's the only thing in the layers. On this one, if you look back, it has this layer right here. It added it above my background layer, and it has this little link there. That shows me that it's linked. So I click back on House Landscape. And what I want to do is I want to get this over to my other document. So I'm going to click on my mouse. I'm going to click on my mouse. So I'm going to click and I'm going to hold this. I'm not going to let go of my mouse button until I get all the way onto the middle of the next page. So I come up to that tab and I drag down and I'm in the middle of my page. Now I let go of my mouse and there's my my house gets dropped on there, and I'm just going to line it up by using my move tool, which is the top tool up here, move tool. And I just drag that right into place and it should snap to place. If it doesn't snap, that just means that you don't have a snap on, snap and snap to, which is fine. So I have my house there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the sky. So I'm going to go 4 tools down and I'm going to locate my magic wand. So remember, a magic wand is for selecting single colors or solid colors like blue, one blue. If I click this right here, it selects most of the sky because most of it's blue, but down here it gets to be a little bit different. I can hold down my shift key and click it and I get more and more, but I have to keep clicking. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to Control D to deselect. And this time I'm going to go up to my tolerance at the top. I'm going to put in about 45 or 50 to allow it to accept more variations of that same first color that I click on. So this time when I click, it selects the entire top right there. And I think it got most of it. It doesn't have things like right here inside there because I'd have to click in there, but I don't need it to be perfect for this assignment. So once I do that, normally I would tell you to mask it by clicking the mask button right here, but this time instead of clicking, or you'd have to alt click the mask button, or option click on the Mac or alt click on the PC, but instead of doing that, I'm just gonna have you delete it. So I just hit my backspace or my delete key and I deleted it. I'm gonna deselect this, so select, deselect, and now I have a nice sky, mountains in the background, right? So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my file menu. I'm going to go down to Place Embedded. And this time I'm going to go Place Embedded instead of Place Linked. The difference between the two is Place Linked keeps your file size smaller because the file is not actually in it. It's just linked to it. It's not in this document. So when I embed it, it's going to raise the file size. So it's a little bit different. So embed raises your file size. Link keeps it at a lower amount. it's not completely gone, but it's a lower amount. So I'm gonna click on rainbow this time, and I'm gonna click place. So I have my rainbow. I'm gonna move it up to the top of my page, and you can see my layer order. It goes background, mountain sky, layer 1, and rainbow is at the top. Then I'm gonna click check mark. Right? Check mark is just saying that I confirm that I wanted this here and to place it there permanently. All right, so now I have my layers. What I'm gonna do to this is I'm gonna have to change this to a smart filter so I can add some effects to it. I don't have to do smart filters, but smart filters are nice because they allow you to make changes to the filter by turning on and off the visibility of the filters. Changes to the layer by turning on and off the visibility of the filters. So right now it's a smart object, which is slightly different than a smart filter. And smart object just prevents you from ruining that layer. So I'm gonna make it into a picture so that I can go and edit that or ruin it. So I'm gonna go right click on it. I want to right click on the right side of the layer and go down to rasterize layer. Clicking on the right clicking on the thumbnail there gives me the menu for the thumbnails. Right clicking on the layer gives me the menu for the layers. So I rasterize the layer. Now I'm going to go up to filter and go down to filter convert to smart filter. And it says to enable re-editable smart filters, the selected will be converted. So that's what I want. So now the symbol's a little bit different than the smart object. It's usually a little bit taller than the smart object one, and a little bit bigger. So they're very, very similar though. So I'm gonna go, so I have my smart filter, and now I can go down to filter gallery, and I can add all kinds of different filters to it. What I'm gonna do is I can show you. So let's say I wanted to add a mosaic tile to it and put big old tiles across it. So it did that, but let's say I don't want that anymore, so I can just click on filter the visibility of that and turn that off instead of having to go back and redo the whole layer again, deleting the layer and then putting it back in and redoing it. So I just turn that off, or I can literally just go here and say delete smart filter. So I'm just gonna delete that one. So what I wanna do is I want you to add a Gaussian. So click filter, we're gonna go down to blur, and then we're gonna go down to where it says Gaussian blur. So this is my favorite blur, one of my favorite blurs. I'm just gonna change this to 15. And that kind of softens the lines, the lines of color so that they're more blended together, and I'm gonna click OK. All right, next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna adjust my opacity. So I'm gonna find my layer menu again, and opacity is right here. I'm gonna click on that, and I'm gonna drag my opacity down. I'm gonna go all the way down to like 10 or 12%. So that it feels like it's actually a real rainbow. Right, so I did 11% there, that's fine. 10 to 12 is fine. And next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna adjust my levels. So I have my rainbow there. I wanna put this a little bit in a better location, so it doesn't make sense to have it right in the middle of the yard of the house. So I'm gonna put it behind the house so it looks like it's in the mountains and in the sky in the background. So next thing I want to do is I want to adjust the layers, the darkness of my pool and greenery by going to my layer. And really the reason why I'm doing this is because I just want to show you how to adjust the picture using your levels. So there's two places to go. You can click adjustments right here to get to your levels menu, or my favorite place is to click on this little cookie at the bottom here. So I'm going to scroll down. There's my levels again. So I'm going to click levels, and what I want to do is I want to use my black, my gray, and my white. So these are setting the points of color on my page. So if I use my white, this is really good for color correcting. This is one of the first things you do when you're color correcting. I see that this window right here is white. So if I click this, it says that should be white. If I click the blue and I say that should be white, it totally throws off my whole picture, and I have to go back and change that. So I'm gonna undo that. So I'm gonna go back. This time what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use my black for this one. So I wanna set the dark points because I really wanna bring out the shadows in this picture. So maybe right in here, I click that. And if you saw the water got a little bit darker, so I'm just toggling what it looks like. And you could find a darker spot. Maybe right here should be the darkest. Maybe you like it to be a little bit more rich. So I think that has a little bit too much magenta, but it's up to you for this one. I'm gonna go back up here to this spot. I think that little bit of darkness is good. So that adjusted my levels, and that's adjusting it for the whole picture. If I want it to just be for that layer, I hold down my Option key or my Alt key on the PC. So I hold on my Alt key and I go in between the layers and I just click, and now I know it's only applying to the house. The other way to do that is to click right here on your downward arrow, the box with the downward arrow, and again that applies it just to that layer underneath. All right. So I think we're about done. The last few things that we're doing in our steps, we're gonna flatten the layers just so you know how to do it. When you're saving as a JPEG, it automatically flattens it, so that the final step would have flattened it to begin with. But what we want to do, I just want to show you how to do it. We're going to go right click and we're going to go down to flatten image right here, and that flattens those layers. Or instead of right click, you could come up here to layer and you go down to flatten image, and it does the same thing. So we flatten it. Now we're just going to save it. File, save. And we haven't saved it yet, so the first time you save it, it always asks you where you want to save it. I'm going to save my Dreamhouse folder, and I'm going to change this format to JPEG. There's about 3 JPEGs in there, so it's probably that first JPEG that you want, and I'm just going to click save. I don't need it to be maximum, just turn it to high and click OK, and that's it. So we did our house.